Hola, Team YouTube. Imagine inheriting a car from a little old lady who happens to be your mom. And you say, it's a Buick, and you're like, oh my god, not a cornball old land yacht lark. No, actually, Grandma had taste, and she had a mechanic that could talk her into some custom wheels. Yeah, it's an 07 Lacrosse with Hilo wheels. Yeah, imagine a little old lady driving around in this. That's my mom. So, got a problem though. Got a clank clunk. We'll talk about it in a second. So, at the end of my asphalt driveway and the start of my cement garage pad, as you can see, I have a couple-inch lip. Congratulations to Tract Housing for making something that just wasn't quite right 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was. So, let's talk about what I was experiencing. I'd hit a bump, hit something like this, and not every time, but boy, if you hit it and then it had a jounce and rebound, you could hear a little thunk. And I'm going to tell you what it was. Had the spousal unit out listening as I ran up and down the garage hump there a couple of times to figure out where the sound was coming from. And my daughter participated too, you know, educated, trained ears and whatnot. So as it turns out, there's like, oh, it's definitely coming from the right side, Dad. So all right, rock and roll. And took off the right wheel after doing the 3 and 9 and 6 and 12 check, couldn't feel anything. Lo and behold, it's the sway bar or anti-sway bar link was snapped in twain. But as you can see, these actually came into a pencil point. They were actually rubbing against each other, best I can figure. And this may have been going on for some time because there was always a little kind of a glitch for the past few months. Plus the car didn't seem to be as tight around corners as maybe it could be, and maybe that's all just, you know, mental recasting history or whatever. But not quite sure. But either way, let's go take a look at one other thing on this anti-sway bar. Hey Team YouTube, so here we are looking at the anti-sway bar. Looks great until you go uncover, discover. Not good. So this is the GM anti-sway bar disease because they made a hollow tube and then they formed an N and it cracks right along the seam. This happens in pretty much every front-wheel drive GM. I've seen it in minivans, I've seen it in Chevy Impalas, 3400, 3800, doesn't really matter. You just get uncover, discover. So I'm going to see if I can get this welded at work, or I'm going to see the price of a new one. We'll find out. But gee, what hardware do you need to pull out the anti-sway bar here? You need a 13 millimeter, couple sets of wrenches to pull out the sway bar end link. And then right there, those are two 13 millimeter head fasteners, bolts, whatever. And of course you got your bushings, and it looks like this thing can pull straight out, unlike the minivans where you have to have an act of God to get the thing out. So, yeah, really like working on my mom's car. It reminds me of her a little bit, and that's, you know, I guess that's a good thing. All right, Team YouTube, we'll have some updates in a bit. Hey, Team YouTube. All right, back on the 2007 Lacrosse Buick 3.8 liter motor. Okay, to pull the sway bar out, the stabilizer bar, you got these two 13 millimeter screws holding in the rubber bushing. And of course you have what was broken. Now this has been replaced. Fortunately, I went to work and I had a welder weld repair each end, one that was broken and the other one was starting to split. So he has a MIG welder, filled it with a good solid weld. He actually rounded it back for me too to make it look pretty. And of course I put a little flat black paint on it when I got home. Just a rattle can, nothing special. So, but the big deal about getting the sway bar down is that right there you have a motor mount, or excuse me, the cradle mount right here. Use an 18 millimeter socket. Loosen that, do not remove it. And there's one on the other side, of course. And then right up here, let's see if we can take a look here. Is the other one. So you have four. Loosen these front ones, again 18 millimeter socket, just a skosh. You don't have to loosen them all out, just a few turns. And then bring it down easy. I would recommend putting a jack. If you look at that cross frame support right there, put a jack there.
And of course, if you're going to do this, put the jack stands on the frame. Don't put them on the cradle, or then that just kind of ruins the whole thing. I wasn't able to pull the stabilizer bar out without dropping the engine cradle a little bit. Actually, almost the whole way. So, I mean, before you run out of thread engagement on the bolts. But Team YouTube, be careful doing that, because you can, the steering and all that sort of stuff, you have to worry about that. So, and here we are, look, there's the new sway bar end link. I decided to go with the Moogs, and the directions on those are kind of weird. I just tightened them 2 turns past the bolt. Tell you what, let's get up top and I'll take you in a little closer. So the directions for these Moog end links say to tighten them until the little center hex screw you can't spin it with your fingers anymore. Frankly, I couldn't spin it for a long time with my fingers when it was barely engaged. So their directions seem kind of whack. So I just went with their end description. Is you'll have 2 to 3 threads showing out the top when it's completely seated. Based on previous experiences with these things, I also decided to put a few drops of blue Loctite on, just to make sure they wouldn't fall apart, because that's exactly what happened to me one time when, frankly, the directions were, I think, even more pitiful than they are today. But who knows? Splurging for these, does it really matter? For a car that doesn't have a super amount of power and isn't like you're, taking it to the Road America or anything, I don't know. But anyhow, I've rambled enough. Have a great night, YouTube, and good luck.